I don't know what I was thinking, really. I had been drinking with friends and got home drunk. I decided to open Tor, and one link led to another. I ended up on a marketplace website that was selling all sorts of shady shit. Though something caught my interest. A posting said, mystery box, made to order, $250. I read the description, which listed what it could contain. A brand new iPad. That was it. That was the thing that made me send $250 worth of Bitcoin to some random guy in some random place on the internet. I had vague memories of sloppily messaging the seller that I really wanted the iPad. Oh God, I remember sending them an extra $50 to sweeten the deal. What a dickhead. When I woke, my head hurt. I had a full-blown migraine. It wasn't until I'd had breakfast, showered, and opened up my laptop that I remembered. My heart sunk. I didn't have money to waste on shit like that, but I did. I clicked the button to message the seller to tell them I changed my mind, but nothing happened. I refreshed the page, and as you can guess, the listing wasn't found. Now, I didn't think myself to be an idiot. I wouldn't fall for 411 scams. I know no Nigerian prince wants to send me money, but drunk me, he's a bit of an asshole. I checked my Bitcoin account to see it tell me that I was out of untraceable money. I swear I had at least $750 worth in there. If you take the exchange rate of the day, with the way it fluctuates, it may have been only worth $300. I was depressed for the rest of the day. I promised myself I wouldn't do anything like that again, but then drunk me is a real, Weeks passed and I completely forgot about it. To be honest, I didn't want to remember how stupid I was. Today, though, I did remember. I walked downstairs to see a large brown box on the kitchen table, addressed to me. My dad must have received it from the mailman when he was getting ready for work. I stared at it, shocked to see it had actually arrived. I picked it up. The weight was lopsided, but it was heavy. That was a good sign. At least it wasn't filled with packing chips. I pulled off the tape and opened it up to reveal a lot of packing chips. I chuckled to myself before plunging my hand in. I pulled out an anonymous red sweater. I held it to my face. It smelled of perfume. It was used. I was slightly disgusted, but what did I expect from the dark web? I placed it on the table next to me. The next item was a set of keys. I examined them and wondered why on earth that was part of this parcel. It was literally like the guy just shoved some random things into a box and sent it off. I was beginning to feel ripped off. I placed my hand in again and pulled out a small bag with a note attached. I knew what it was before I read it. I was excited. A little thing to make the time pass more calmly, written in Sharpie. It was a good amount of weed. I'd never bought drugs off the internet. I was intrigued to see what was remaining. Maybe I'd make my money back yet. The next item was a small wooden box. I opened it to see a few pieces of silver jewelry. I checked each one, having no idea if it was worth anything. There were 2 necklaces and 2 rings. I wondered if these were stolen or bought from a pawn shop. I placed it next to the red top. The next was another baggie with another note written in Sharpie. "You'll need these, trust me, winky face." I was a little anxious when I read the note and saw a small box of Xanax inside. I fished around in the box again and couldn't feel anything else. I picked it up to feel it was still heavy. I placed it down again and stood up. I reached all the way to the bottom and felt something large and slender. I pulled it out. It was a fucking iPad. Holy shit, jackpot. It was slightly scratched, but it wasn't a first generation. It was light and thin. It was at least an Air. I was stoked. It was then my mother popped her head around the corner. "Hey, honey, did you get a package?" "Yeah," I said, suddenly aware I could smell the weed in my back pocket. "Hey, you found my sweater," she said, delighted. "Where was it?" Was all I mustered. She picked it up and unconsciously the keys too. She walked away. "What's that?" she said, turning. "I'm holding it for a friend," I said without thinking. "What?" she said, not paying attention. "What's my jewelry box doing down here?" I stared at my mom, slack-jawed. She picked it up and opened it, studying if anything was missing. "Well, answer me," she demanded. "It was in the package," I said honestly. "Don't bullshit me. Were you going to sell this?" "No, I promise." "Just wait until your dad gets home." "Jesus, Darren." "I swear this is not your stuff. It was in my package I bought off the net." "You expect me to believe you bought my exact top and my jewelry box off the internet? Why in God's blazes would you do that?" "It was a mystery box. It could have contained anything." "You come up with some shit sometimes." I think it's best if you go to your room. I'm 17, I said. When you're under our roof, it's our rules. I picked up the iPad and went upstairs. I laid on my bed and turned the device on. I was surprised to see it still had power. A few non-standard apps appeared on the desktop as I swiped to unlock. Nothing of interest, though. I checked the email program to see that it was blank. I was worried it was stolen and knew I couldn't keep it if there were any personal data on there. I checked the Photos app. There were around a dozen photos. I tapped the first. It was a low-light shot of a street. It could have been any. I swiped, and the next was on the front of a house. The light was on in the front room, but in the low light, it overexposed the shot and made it hard to see any detail. The next was of the side of a house. The horizontal white wood siding looked similar to ours. The next was of what appeared to be a rear door. Then one of a kitchen. I did a double take. This place looked identical to ours. Then one of the living room. The TV bright and hiding the faces of the people who sat on the couch and chair. Then one of the stairs. The brown waxed wood of the floor was uncanny and my heart thumped in my chest. Then one of the landing. This was no coincidence. It was our house. The family portrait that hung on the far side wall, even in the low light, was obviously ours. I panicked and didn't want to swipe again, though I did. My parents' bedroom. My mother asleep on the bed covers pulled taut. The next few, the covers being pulled back gently. My mother pulled her legs up from the sudden cool air. The cupboard open, a black-gloved hand reaching out and searching. The hand holding a red sweater. A dark photo with lines of light obscuring the view. Another dark photo this time. The exposure was better, and I see it's from inside the cupboard. My dad was in the room. The next, my dad getting into bed next to my mother. Then one of the bed, my parents sleeping. I swiped again and saw the covers pulled back. Whoever it was doing this wanted to be caught, I was sure of it. After that, in the hallway again, the black-gloved hand holding the jewelry box outstretched. Only one photo remained, and it was above a bed with someone sleeping below. It was me. My blood ran ice cold. I threw the iPad to the floor, hearing it crack against the side of my desk. No, I said to myself. I leaped up and saw the screen stare back at me with a rainbow mosaic of broken LCD and glass. What was I going to tell my parents? They'd never believe me. I pulled the bag of pills out of my back pocket and read the note again. You'll need these. Trust me, winky face. I turned it over to read a date. 07/21/2018. It must have been when the package was sent. I read it again and realized that's tomorrow. Saturday. Fuck, what does it mean? I have to warn my parents. Please, if you don't hear from me, call the authorities. I fear the worst. It was only by sheer chance that one day while at college, a friend of mine suggested checking out the dark web. See if they could come up with any suggestions on how to unwind. Little did I know that the dark web itself would become my coping mechanism. The anonymity gave me a thrill I'd never felt before. I needed to ride this out and see where it took me. I started light. I searched a few message boards which were pretty vanilla, but then a comment caught my eye. It was on a post from a supposedly spurned lover who wanted to exact revenge on someone. Amongst the usual comments of "have a go hitmen" and offers to hack their personal computers, one comment stood out. It read, "You can try your luck with any of these, but if you really want to get back at them, really want to hurt them in ways they will just know it was from you, click here. I'll be waiting." Out of curiosity, I clicked the link. The screen went black to begin with, and just as I was about to give up hope, I noticed a very small, almost unnoticeable blinking dot in the bottom corner of the screen. I hovered over the dot and clicked it. A new message board sprang to life on the screen, but this one was different. I can't quite explain it, but I could almost instantly tell that this was the real deal. I skimmed a few of the messages posted. It ranged from people placing bids on executing someone right through to people offering insane amounts of money for adoption without the legal work. Over the next 2 weeks, I spent hours upon hours every night scrolling through the new message board. Every time I refreshed the screen, there were several new messages pinned. I was surprised how many people were on here, considering the links it took to get on here. I began replying to messages with silly replies that would probably only entertain me. But with the feeling of being completely anonymous, I soon found myself feeling braver each time, replying to a few of the more hardcore posts. And that's when I saw it. A post from a hitman for hire in my area looking for work. Without thinking, I messaged him. I had to see if he was the real deal. I made up a story about my neighbor and some rumors that were flying around, and that he needed to be off the streets. It took a while for the guy to reply, but instead of replying in the normal way like everyone else had before him, Notepad on my computer opened up on its own, and I watched in sheer terror as it began to type on its own. Somehow he had gained control of my computer and was now typing on a completely unattached program. I suppose to show his authenticity, but whatever the reason, it certainly did the trick of scaring me. Out of panic, I turned off the monitor and sat there in silence. The monitor came back on with a simple message typed out on Notepad. "Are you still there? Do you still want him removed? My fee is $15,000 for the first one, then I charge depending on circumstance." I sat, open-mouthed, staring at the screen. The next message that popped up made my blood run cold. "I can be at the address within the hour. I'm only a few blocks away." I hadn't told him the address yet. How in the hell did he know where I was? I frantically typed that I wanted to back out, that I wanted to deal with it another way, but he insisted. He dismissed my plea with a simple message saying, "See you soon." I dove at the light switch, plunging my room into darkness. From there, I made my way across to the window and partially opened the curtains, peering out into the moonlit street. I barely took in a breath for fear of making too much noise. After what seemed like an eternity, a blacked-out old Pontiac made its way into our street. We're fortunate enough to live in a cul-de-sac, which meant any car that came down here was rarely here without purpose. It drove silently, then effortlessly it came to a stop. No more than 3 houses away from my house, and directly opposite my house, the intended target. A light was on in the downstairs back room. I suspect someone must have came downstairs for a drink, perhaps. I hadn't even given it a second thought to the people who lived across the road. In the throes of conversation with the hitman, I had just loosely described their house and mentioned they lived opposite me. Not for one moment had I taken into consideration the 2 teenagers who lived there, let alone the mother and father, who were actually really nice people. What had I done? I was snapped out of my self-pitying spiral when the Pontiac's door opened and out stepped a man in what appeared to be overalls, dark green overalls covered in what looked like muddy stains from here. My heart leapt into my throat as he turned his head towards my window, held my stare for a moment, then began striding towards the neighbor's house. I watched in utter disbelief as he made his way inside. By now, the light in the back room had been turned off, followed by the stairs light momentarily being turned on, then off again, as the unknown neighbor presumably made it back to bed. A light in the back bedroom came on, then a light in the third bedroom followed. A few seconds later, the master bedroom light came on. I could see silhouettes thrash around in panic. The stairs light came on again, and then the kitchen light. The front door opened. Out crawled the remaining teen, drenched in blood. The man appeared in the doorway. As the teen crawled along the driveway, he stalked a few steps behind, enjoying his handiwork. With a swift blow, the teen was no more. He stood and looked in my direction again. He put his hand in his pocket and pulled out a smartphone. My computer screen sprang into life again as a message appeared on Notepad. "Money by morning, or I'll be paying you a visit next." I should have stayed off the dark web.